Good evening, everyone. My name's Arsh Ellahi, and I'm here today with a very good friend of mine, um, and I believe I've just crashed the PowerPoint again. What's going on? I'm here today. Neil, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I've got you, Ash. I
Okay,
know we're having a couple of technical difficulties over there at the minute.
we are indeed. I don't know why we keep crashing the PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm here today with a very good friend of mine, Neil, and we're going to be Neil Ward, who is currently, I believe, you're sitting in where is it, LA today?
Yeah, while you're doing that, I'll just say hello to everybody. So, for those of you who don't know me, guys, it's Neil Ward. I do a lot of the webinars with Ash and run the trainings with Ash every time. So, Happy New Year to everyone. And I think it's 8 o'clock over there in the UK at the minute. I'm just over in California at the minute. Last webinar, I think, I was in Vegas, so moving around a lot.
Indeed.
How you getting on with the slides, Ash?
Yeah, I think we're getting there, mate. Bear with me a second. Right, okay. So,
Okay, good.
I think we're here. Fantastic.
Okay, good stuff.
Yeah, okay. I think we might have to run it like this because every time we're trying to open it up, it keeps crashing the screen. Just so that I know that we've got everyone on board. First of all, apologies for the technical hitch. Can everyone see the screen? Okay. Can everyone see the presentation? I know it's a little bit smaller than it normally would be, but more importantly, can you all see? Can you all hear both me and Neil? Okay. If you can just in the far right hand side. You'll have a questions and a comments box. If you can just say that you can hear us, yeah, can everyone saying that they can see and then hear it? I apologise in advance that this is a bit smaller than what it normally would be. But okay, so
Okay, yeah, that's good.
today we're going to be talking about something which me and Neil haven't spoken about before. It's about the pros and cons of rent to rent strategy and is it right for you? And we thought that this would be fitting, especially being the start of the year. 2015, it's brand new year, so it's given you an opportunity to set your goals, an opportunity for you to think about where you want to be, and more importantly, how you want to progress this year. And what we thought today, we'll talk about this strategy in particular. And hopefully, by the end of it, you're going to have a look at the pros and cons, and you can really identify whether this is for you. Right. I'm
Great.
going to just give you a brief, not so much about me. I'm going to give you a brief introduction about who I am, what I've done. Me and Aki, I run 10 companies with my brother Aki Lahi, and together we're landlords and letting agents. We've been letting property since 1973, which technically isn't correct because I wasn't born until 1980. But my father had a small portfolio, and when I left university, I decided that property was going to be something that I wanted to go into full time. I went in, I really ramped up his portfolio, and now I've got over 500 tenants, all on benefits. But the beautiful thing is that I've systemized it in a way where I've got a 100% rent collection record and a very high 98% occupancy rate. Shameless plug, but yes, we do run workshops on how to maximize rent from benefit families, how to set up HMOs correctly, as well as assist with raising finance. And finally, I've thrown this in, Neil. Neil, you wouldn't have seen this yet. Um, but I can't remember, was it last month or the month before? I actually wrote an article in YPN about rent to rent strategy and actually identifying some of the properties that I've taken on within the last few months and just clarifying a few people about how it can actually be financially beneficial by doing this strategy. Um, More importantly, if you haven't read my articles and you'd like to read them, you can go onto my website, which is arshilahi.com, and then /articles, and you've got all my articles. I think there's been the best part of 20 articles over the last couple of years there. So that's a free little golden nugget for you. Now, enough about me, because tonight we're here to pick Neil's brains. And what I'd like to do is introduce Neil. I want to know a little bit about who Neil Ward is, and more importantly, what makes him the authority to be able to guide you on this strategy. So over to you, Neil.
Oh, thanks, Ash. So, glad we got through all those technical difficulties anyway. So I'm actually over in California right now. So if the Wi-Fi goes, or if my sound goes off or anything, just type a message in and we'll sort it out. So I started in property in 2005. And the way I started out, a lot like a lot of people, watching Sarah Beanie on the TV and thought that looks a good idea, and found a house around the corner from where I live with my parents, and it was a big fixer-upper. So jumped in, offered the asking price straight away, got the keys a few weeks later, and got started on it. I did the typical strategy, which a lot of people follow, did a refurb, released some equity, bought another, released some equity, bought another, and just that's what I did since then. Slowed down a bit during the crash, didn't really buy anything then, but started again last year, going forward with that. So my work history is that I was originally in the British Army, and I did all of this, my property sourcing, refurbs and things, whilst I was still serving. So that was the background where I got my discipline and all my core values from. I've been an entrepreneur for this time as well, owned lots and lots of different businesses. First couple flopped. I'm honest about that. First couple of businesses completely flopped, didn't do too well. Third one was okay, and then from the fourth one onwards, I got it and started to make some good money. I sold some businesses, still got some books that I wrote back then as well. And then I went into marketing consultancy when I first left the army out in LA, and then around the UK. And then I went around Europe and all sorts of different places. And then I got into direct sales, which I don't know if any of you have been in direct sales, but it's probably the hardest type of sales you can ever be in. So I started in that, and I was absolutely terrible at first. My first few months, I was so terrible. I ran out of money. I didn't even have money for food almost. It was lucky I had all my other stuff going, because I just had no money whatsoever. And then I became a sales trainer. And then I became a sales trainer of sales trainers, and that's all over the UK, EU, and USA. So that's my background, and another reason why I think I've been so successful at Rent to Rent, because of my marketing and sales background. So what did I do? I started then in Rent to Rent, and I acquired an income very, very quickly, £5,000 net, not gross, per month within the first few months of the strategy. I've just been building up since. We've this month signed 7 more contracts to start this year, and we've got another 10 on the board, which we're just negotiating this month as well. So really ramping it up now very quickly. And I think the good thing about doing Rent to Rent, just to throw this in, is that it really does give you a nice lifestyle. I'm looking on the weather just now, and I can see in the UK it's absolutely freezing and rainy and cold and dark, and for me, I don't really like the cold and wet and all that. So I'm sat in the garden right now in California, Ventura County, flip-flop shorts, t-shirt, got a freshly juiced orange here from the tree in the garden, and it really just gives you that lifestyle to be able to do all this. And I've actually got some sort of parrot just sat right next to me now randomly as well. It's just such a nice lifestyle to be able to do all this sort of thing. So I think that's a good intro on me, Arsh, if you want to go forward.
Okay, so before you do anything in property, you need to really understand what is it? What is your why? Everyone talks about a why. What is it that you do, or why is a reason that you get up every morning to go and do what you do? Now, what we'd like to do is, if you can, in the far right hand side, just explain to us what is the reason, or why are you on this webinar this evening? What you're hoping to get out of the webinar, but more importantly, what would you like? What would be your end goal, and why would you want to do the rent to rent business? So, okay, interesting. I like reading the comments that come through on this because it's such a vast. We get such a variety of comments, and a lot of the comments that we get in today, Neil, is my kid's future, curiosity. Okay, one person's on here just for curiosity, freedom, get free lifestyle to spend more time. Spend more time with family time. Someone's put that they reach a stagnant period and they want to move on. Passive income, escape the rat race. Want to be part of the change, the London housing market. Want to be able to live my dream. Okay, that's interesting, Philippa. Want to live in Bali for the last 3 months per year and run villas out there. Okay, interesting.
Great.
So cash cow to buy more properties. Okay, interesting. Right, so we've got.
Yeah.
I think everything comes down to lifestyle. So people want to be with their family more. They want to spend. They want to escape the rat race. And 9 to 5. You decide when you wake up. You decide when you go to work.
Yeah.
Does that really sum it up, Neil?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they were all these reasons were the same sort of things that I wanted to do. And it's really funny the way the brain works, because we look at things and we set goals and targets, and you look at it and you go, I could never do that. I remember when I first set the target of having a property, you know, in different places of the world and spending my winters in California and Vegas and places like that. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I'll never get this. And then look at today, you know, a few years on, and I'm doing it. And it really is just setting those goals and following through. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have as humans, is that we set the goals, but we don't really believe that we can do it, and we give up just before we're about to actually get that result. And it's just a bizarre thing. It really is. But if you just keep pushing forward and keep going, then eventually you will realize these things. It's impossible not to. So I'll just go on to this slide, Ash. So, I mean, my commitment really to everyone, why I do the trainings with Ash, when Ash first approached me to work with him on this, me and Ash sort of sat down, and I wanted to know from Ash's point of view why he does it. And it was amazing how our values completely aligned. So for me, I like to do training because I want to create happiness through education. And that really is by generating money. You know, there's loads of other great things out there, but for me, it's about helping people to generate money. Because I know a lot of people say they want money so they can do X, Y, Z, but really what the money is for, you know, the money is there to create happiness. It's what comes from the money. So better health, more time, so you don't have to work a job you don't enjoy, being able to travel without worrying about, well, I've only got this amount of money. And of course, when you've got all these things, you can relax more. It gives you a lot more peace of mind, so you get closer with your families. Your health can improve because you can focus on that. Stronger relationships, you can go on adventures. It's all interlinked. So that's why my commitment is to create happiness through helping people to raise more money in their life.
Okay, fantastic. Is everyone happy with that? Is there anything that anyone wants to ask? Actually, we've got a couple of questions. Now maybe right, okay, interesting. Okay. Right, okay. Moving forward. What we're going to do, we're going to start from the very basics. And if you can, in the right hand side, if you can just put what your experience level is, and don't be afraid to admit that you're a beginner if you are a beginner. If you've got no knowledge of property whatsoever, please feel free to say so. Because what we want to do, we want to make sure that everyone is involved on this webinar. And if you don't know what the strategy is, we can take it from the very basics. Okay, so we've got some people who are saying that complete newbie and beginner. First of all, congratulations and congratulations for taking the effort and the initiative to educate yourself. So we're going to be talking about rent to rent, and what rent to rent is a strategy that has been around for a number of years, but it's only come to the forefront recently just because of the mortgage markets tightening up. So people wanted to progress with their property businesses, but they weren't able to just because they were finding funding difficult to obtain. And the strategy really works around not requiring any funding from any banks whatsoever, because how it works is that there's three people involved. There's a landlord, there's you in the centre, and then the people who will be renting off you, who will be your tenants. And how it works is really simple. You approach a landlord with your proposition. You tell him exactly what you want to do. You're going to then have to do some work to enable to multi-let out the property, which means that you're then going to rent out each of the rooms in the property for a lot more than you're paying the landlord. And it really is that simple. And the money that you make in excess after you've paid the landlord, after you've paid your costs, equals a profit. Now, the reason why I like this strategy is because let's just imagine that you've got a single property, and let's just say two-bed mid-terrace property, and it's, in the West Midlands it generates anywhere between £400 and £500 per month. Now, once that property's vacant, the property is no longer generating an income, but still you have to pay a mortgage every month. You can't go back to the mortgage company and say, well, sorry, it's empty. Do you mind if I defer the payment this month? Because sooner or later, they may say it once, but sooner or later they're going to say, sorry, you may have to think about whether the property is the right future for you. Now, what I like about rent to rent is that, let's just say for this example, we've got a 4-bed, either semi-detached or terrace property, which means that you'd normally have 4 beds, living room, dining room, kitchen and bathroom. Now, if you were to multi-let the property, you could rent out potentially 5 rooms in that property. So you could rent out 4 of the bedrooms and possibly 1 of the living rooms or dining rooms. I've used the living room for this example. And more importantly, it's very rare that all 5 tenants will leave at the same time. Whereas with a family unit and a single let, once that house is empty, it's empty. But if one room becomes empty as a HMO, house of multiple occupancy, you'll still have 4 other tenants in the property generating you an income. So 5 rooms at £400 a month equals £2,000 rental income. Minus the rent that you're paying for the landlord, in this example is £850, minus utility costs, which normally means council tax, water rates, electricity, gas, and possibly broadband, which means that you're still getting a profit of £800 per month. And remember, you haven't bought the property. All you've done is let it off a landlord and you're subletting it. Neil, do you want to go through what's involved with rent to rent?
Yeah, sure. So the reason it works so well, number one, you've got no mortgage required at all. So like Arsh said there, it's so much more simple. The mortgage market's really tightened up recently, and I know a lot of people are struggling to get mortgages. So that's a good thing if you're in that position. None of this messing around with solicitors or mortgage surveyors or anything like that, where they drag their heels for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you're getting frustrated. None of that either. You don't need a 25% deposit like you would do if you were buying a house like this to rent it for yourself. If you bought a typical, let's say you paid $200,000 for a 4-bed house like that, 25% deposit down, that's £50,000. I don't know about you, but I don't know many people who've just got 50 grand sat in their bank. Plus then you've got everything on top, stamp duty or your conveyancing fees and everything else. Next, there's very little capital required to get going. Typically in rent to rent, you can start with a couple £100 if everything was perfect in the house. Like I know Arsh usually takes on properties that are already newly refurbished, everything's done, and he just takes them on and pays, well, nothing really. For me, my strategy is slightly different. I take on some of the houses. I'll take on pretty much any houses really these days, that if I can make it work. But a lot of mine will cost a couple of thousand for a refurb, typically £1,500, £2,000, and I look to get my money back very quickly from that, sort of 3 or 4 months ideally. Next, it's a lot easier to generate cash flow from properties, and it's very easy to grow it into a business. We can, I don't know if we're going to have time to talk about systemization, but basically I've just turned my rent-to-rent portfolio into a business. So, I mean, you're probably thinking, you must have a lot of tenants, Neil. How are you sat in California right now? How's this been running for the last 6 weeks while you've been away? Well, I've systemized it. I've got someone in place that takes care of everything. Great guy. reliable, and he looks after everything. All the systems have been put in place, so it's so simple. And lastly, you determine the terms of the agreement with the landlord yourself. And that's the great thing. Sometimes, deals just don't work out. And if it's not right for you, you can walk away. Give the landlord a few weeks' notice, let him know, and maybe even help him to, do something different with the property. But at the end of the day, you can determine the terms of that agreement and walk away if it doesn't work. If you buy a property, an HMO, and it doesn't work out, well, you're stuck with it. So these are, just a few of the things involved with it. Okay. I'm going to give you an example now, if we go to the next slide, on a house that I took on. And this house is a nice house, actually, but funny enough, a few doors down, I've got a house which I'm going to talk about shortly, which is a bit of a nightmare house. Well, it has been. It should all be resolved now. And it's so strange the difference that 2 or 3 doors down can make. But this chap here, get on really well with him. He's actually a friend of mine now, and he's an accountant. And this property came to me, I think this is a referral. It's either a referral, but I know his father initially came to me. His father's a doctor, and he had a lot of houses. And he'd owned this property for 4 years, this one, and he just decided, he's going to let to students. This is what he'd done, because he'd done it every year. But then he had a few issues with his letting agent, and they really messed him around. And then they broke the living room door on this property, and they didn't even tell him about it. And then they tried to deny it. So he got so fed up. That was the tipping point for him. And 1st of July came round, and he sort of panicked a little bit, because if you know the student cycle, as soon as you get into the summer, you've really got to rent that room quickly, or else it's going to sit empty until January. So he gave that property to me. I got 4 rooms from that. Next slide, Arsh.
Okay.
So I offered him a 3-year lease on this, because he hadn't done any business with me. So I wanted to just get him in the door, because I know he's got other properties, and he's a nice guy. He's an intelligent man. He's going to be buying more properties. So I wanted to get him on the books, get the property from him. So that was a 3-year lease, and I gave him a 10% rate rise for year 4. And the reason I always put the rate rise in is because if he did decide, a few years down the line, I can go back into the student market, or I might be able to get some money from someone else, a little bit more, that 10% just tips him over the edge again, and he thinks, it's not worth all the hassle for an extra few quid. So that's why I put that in. So the rent on this house is really good rate, actually. It's only £680 per month, and you can see the cost of the rooms there. So it generates over £20,000 per annum. If you go to the next slide, Ash. So figures, rent to landlord is £680 a month. Utilities are low on this, £330. Now I do this for professionals. If I did this for students, it would be even lower. It would be about £210 in utilities. So the profit per month is £680, but it would be about £800 if I did it for students. But I'm happy with it the way it is.
Okay, can I stop you just there? Can everyone still hear us okay? Because I think one person just put it's gone all very quiet and stopped. So if you can still hear us, I'd love you to just in the far right hand corner put a yes or no. Yeah, okay, everyone's still saying okay. That one person must just be having a few technical issues. Okay, Neil, I just want you to talk about a couple of these properties, because I want to get into the bulk of the
Yeah, definitely. Let's get into it. So this is just a couple of before and after properties that I've done. And I mean, the first picture there, that was a room that was originally on the market that I saw. And I looked at it and thought, that is never going to rent in a million years. And it was going for really, really cheap. I took that room on, put it up. I think I probably doubled the price of it or something with that image. And it went within it was definitely the first day. I can't remember how many hours it was. And you can just see a couple of refurbs there that I've done, other rooms that, just weren't in very good condition. Spent a couple £100 just upgrading rooms. Typically, I spend about £250 per room, just upgrading it, and that's the sort of finish you get from it. So if we go on to the content now, Ash, next slide.
Okay. Right,
I'll let you lead the way.
Okay, now this is the prime position. Someone's just continuously keeps asking me to see if we can make that. Hopefully that's a bit better for you. Let's just see if we can make this slightly larger for you. There we go. Hopefully that's a bit better for you. Right, okay. So
Yeah, that's good there.
this is the main part of the webinar. This is where we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of rent to rent. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you should be able to determine, is this strategy right for you? By outweighing having a look at both the pros and cons, we're going to start going through it. So Neil, I'll go through the first one. As I mentioned, there's no mortgage required. So this strategy really is good for people with bad credit or and even work for people who are new to the UK. Now, why I like this strategy? What made me get into this strategy was I can get very complacent in property. I've got quite a large portfolio, so I could very easily sit back and say, well, I think I've done my bit. But I like challenging myself. So every time I get complacent, I throw myself completely into a brand new deep end of water. And I said to myself just over 12 months ago, okay, everyone's talking about rent to rent. If they can do it, I can definitely do it. I've got this can do mindset. And I said, well, if I can do it, I'm going to do it really well. And within 12 months, I challenged myself and I bought in 20 properties. It was more so the challenge. But now those 20 properties generate me well in excess of £10,000 net cash flow per month. And I do my rent to rent slightly different. And one thing that Neil put on the slide earlier is that no two properties are the same. So every negotiation is completely independent. Now, when I do my rent to rent strategies, I try and look for the larger properties. So I'm looking for properties where you can generate 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 rooms out of it. And I recently took on a 19-bed care home on a rent to rent strategy. And when I calculated it over 7 years, that's going to generate an income of over £500,000 on a property that I do not own. Nor have I had to spend a penny on acquiring. More importantly, I haven't had to pay a deposit, nor have I had to put 25% capital down to acquire it. So it makes the process a hell of a lot easier. And I like the form of negotiating. I like the fact that we go in, and I love bartering. So if someone says it's worth £1, I want to buy it for 50 pence. So yeah, Neil, I think I've covered a lot of it there. What do you want to put anything in there? The pros?
I, I think another good point we should probably throw in. Yeah, go to the next slide there, Ash. I might have already put it onto the next slide.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll go on to a few more pros, and then we can cover a few more after. So, I mean, the best thing about this strategy is you can generate massive income of at least £500 per house times, I don't know, 10 houses very, very quickly. If you wanted to buy 10 houses the traditional way to get this sort of income, it would be a lot of effort. You've got to go through, like I said, all the solicitors, or the estate agents, or the purchasing. It's a lot of effort.
Let's work on the calculation there, Neil. If they wanted to buy 10 properties, let's just say the average purchase price is £100,000, which means that they need £25,000 capital input.
Yeah.
So 10 properties, that means you need £250,000 or £250,000 to purchase.
Plus another 50 on top, I'd say, in all the fees and everything else.
Indeed. So all in all, the reason why both me and Neil like this strategy is because we can acquire 10 properties very quickly with very little money.
Yeah. I mean, when you sort of get good at this and you've got everything systemized and tied down, and your advertising and marketing is all on point, you can, I think some months I've generated 30 leads in a single month. Now, of course, not all of those are right or ideal for me, but nonetheless, they were leads that came in. And if you do other property strategies, you can use those leads for other things. There's so many other strategies out there, but you can use these leads for other things, for your own purchases, or if you do lease options or anything like that. So it's just so fantastic, and I just don't think there's a better way out there to make such a high amount of money so fast and so easy.
I completely agree. And the one thing that's you should also, the one thing that I've done with my rent to rent strategy is that I'm not reliant on this income because I've already got a substantial portfolio. But what I have done is that I've kept all the income from my rent to rent properties, and I've paid down a lot of debt on my existing income, on my existing portfolio. So
Yeah.
it's creating me a win-win scenario. So yes, I'm getting properties. It's not costing me anything, but more importantly, that income that I'm generating is paying down the debt on my existing portfolio, which I will then leave to my kids later on down the line.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, even the figures we put on there, £500 per house, that's the minimum I would look for if I was doing a deal. I mean, you saw that typical example there, generate 680, would do 800 for students. I mean, 500 is very low on a deal like this. I sort of go for ideally minimum 150 profit per room per month. So if you want to write that down, that's a good calculation. At the minimum, you want to be looking at about £125 profit per room per month to work your figures out on. But I mean, if you had, let's say you had 10 houses or even 5 houses that generate £1,000 per month income, you'd be making £5,000. £1,000 a house, 5 houses, you're making £5,000 very, very, very quick once you got it set up. And then you just copy it basically. Once it's systemized, you just copy it and just repeat it, rinse, repeat. And if you follow the way I do it, I've got a team that does it all for me anyway. They've got all my mind maps, they've got all the formats, they just go into the next house, they know what they're doing, paint, do this, do that. It's the same in every house, same furniture in most cases. So it's just easy. The initial effort is really, like most things, it's just setting it up at the beginning, just setting that up, putting that time and effort in. But once it's going, it's like any business, it just flows really nicely. So which brings me on to point 2, really. You can systemize and hire a property manager to take on the full management for you, which is exactly what I've done. The only thing I do within the business now is I check the accounts every week, just to see if people have paid. And it's very, very rare that I've had someone that hasn't paid their rent. And all I do is I message Joe, who's my property manager. This person hasn't paid their rent. He then calls them up, and usually within a couple of hours, I've got a payment through. So it's just so simple. I've never to this day had a single person not pay their rent, not one. So it really does work. Next, landlords absolutely love this service, and they'll give you fantastic low rental rates in return because you're actually solving their problem. A lot of people might come in and want to buy their property, and the landlord's got all this hassle of, right, now I've got to sell it, I've got to do this and negotiate and all this sort of business. And what I'm talking about here is, say, a landlord that's maybe a little bit fed up, or they've been doing students, or they did some other type of tenant and maybe there was damage and things like that. You come in and offer this: I'm going to refurbish your property, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to take care of it. You're going to get guaranteed rent every single month for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever you offer them. Who wouldn't be interested in that? So that, I can't really say much more about that. The landlords just love the service, and I get so many referrals that we can't even take on all the properties. For July and August this year, we've got so many on the board that we can't even do half of them, actually, because it's just, there's so many tenants. Let me rephrase that. There are only so many tenants within each area, so you've just got to look at that and see how many you could put into your rooms. And typically we can do up to 5 a week, which is huge. That's a lot of tenants, considering most people they struggle for 1 a week, or some people even struggle for 1 a month. But we've got it all systemized, so we just fill the houses so fast. just great. Next point, you can save the profits that you make to build up deposit money for purchasing your own properties. Now, here's the great thing here. If you do want to build a portfolio like me and Arsh do, where are you going to get that capital from? Well, if you're doing a typical 9 to 5, how long would it take you to save up, say, 30 grand to put a deposit down, or 50 grand to put a deposit down? Quite a long time. If you had a strategy like this going on the side, then how quickly would you build up that deposit? Very fast indeed. And not only that, if you've got a good rapport with that landlord, you're doing a good service for him, and you made him an offer, and you know that's a good house, it's working well, it's your best house, and then you went to him and said, look, I want to buy the property from you, or even said, I'll give you 10% above market rate for the property, for example, why would he not sell that property to you, or she, for that matter? Why would they not sell that property to you? A lot would, I mean, in my case, certainly, they're interested in selling, because what I do, I sort of look at how they can increase their portfolio. We talk about other areas that they can invest in as well. So there's so many different things you can do with the landlords. Next, it's what I put here. It is possible to build up to £10,000 of profit per month within your first 18 months, given the right area, and that is possible. There's a couple. I know 3 people so far that have done this very, very quickly. It's really about you and your mindset. If you're not committed to doing it, then you'll never really do it. But if you're really committed, and you know, maybe this is the year for you, you really want to get into this and get that financial freedom now, then you can do it, especially with me and Arsh helping you as well. We're just so committed to everybody that we work with. We've even got our own Facebook group. We've got 2 Facebook groups, in fact. As soon as a question is posted in there, either me or Arsh, whoever's about, we'll start answering and helping people. And you know, people are motivated. Our groups are just, the people are just, we're so proud of all of our rent-to-rent people, because they're just doing such amazing work. I mean, Arsh, you've been speaking to a couple of people recently. I mean, what was that? What was the one you were telling me about the other week? The guys took on four houses in a day or something,
Yeah.
something crazy.
Well, one person came to us. I think they were on our last training in November, and
Yeah.
he was really determined that he was going to make this work. He just left his job, and he said, "Well, if there was ever going to be a time, now is going to be the time." Towards the end of the year, and he came on the training. He got all the documents that he needed,
Yeah.
and he went out and he followed our training to the T. And we've stayed in contact with him, and he's actually pulled in 3 HMOs, and he's looking at pulling in another 4.
Wow.
Each one is going to have between 4 and 5 tenants in. And all of
Wow.
a sudden, he's gone from earning 0 from complete newbie into almost a property professional.
Yeah. Really quick. Yeah.
So a couple of people
Okay.
asked a couple of questions here, Neil. So
Yeah. Go.
a lot of it is about how easy is it to find landlords, and why would a landlord not just let the property through an agent? As
I love this question. We always get this question, actually. Why would the landlord not use an agent? Why wouldn't they do it themselves? And it's so simple. It's just, if you, this is why we love it when people come on the course, because it just completely changes your mindset, you know, especially with all the calculators and everything else we have, and we show you stuff from like my website, for example. You see, if you're a landlord and you're sat in front of me, and I'm sat there and I say, right, let's run through the rent calculator I've got on the website. How much are you getting at the moment through an agent? Oh, £1,000 a month. Great, 1,000 a month. Okay. What's their first month's fee? Oh, that's 50%, Neil, 50%. Okay, 50%. Right, let's factor that in. What is it monthly? It's 12%, Neil. Okay, 12%. What about damages and repairs and improvements? What do you spend a year? Oh, probably, I think it was 800 last year. Average probably 600-700 a year. Okay, 600-700. You know, you take all these things in, and do you pay VAT on that? Yes. VAT. Okay, that's only 20%. What do you think a typical £1,000 gets you? Type into the boxes. What do you think a typical £1,000 through an agent a landlord would get? What figures we getting, Ash?
we're still thinking. Someone's saying 650.
650. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Someone's put as low as 150. Between 840. So people are saying between 650 and 840.
Yeah, it averages out at about 570 a month, £570 a month. So when you come in and offer, for example, £700 a month to that landlord, and you guarantee the rent, so they don't have to pay for guaranteed rent insurance or an agent, and you say that you're going to give them a contract 3 to 5 years, so they don't have to worry about any of that, and you say you're going to refurbish the property for them and put it into a nice condition, and you show, what do you think they're going to say to that offer? They jump at the offer. I've only had one person say no so far. That's it, one person. And the deal wasn't right for them anyway. I should never have really pitched them, but you know, that was one of those. It's just that's why they do it. Does that answer the question?
Indeed. Okay, so Neil,
Okay.
we've talked about rent to rent in such a positive
Yeah.
light. Now, obviously, with everything, there's a pro and then there's a con.
Yeah, definitely.
So why not? Let's give this an equal balance, and let's talk
Okay.
about some of the cons.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll share a personal story first of one of the properties I took on that didn't work out very well. But luckily, it wasn't like some of the articles I've been reading recently and hearing about from people where they've lost 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand, because I'm a very risk averse person. And I know a lot of people that know me know that about me. I don't like risk at all. So if I'm taking on a property, I'm not putting a lot of money in there. I've already made sure that everything's above board with the landlord. I've checked everything before I'm going forward. So there was one property I took on, and it was through a portfolio of properties that some people gave me. They've got a very, very large portfolio, is the best way to say it. And this property, when I first saw it, I thought it needed a fair bit of work, and I budgeted about £2,000, maybe 2,200 at the most. And when I took it on, I knew the boiler was a little bit older, and I thought, that's a bit risky. But I spoke to the landlords. They said, yeah, we'll replace that, no issues at all if there's any problems. So that was great. As we started to go into the refurbishment, we started to find a lot of little issues all over the place. And it was things that you wouldn't really typically look for when taking on the property. So it was, firstly the washing machine didn't work properly. Then the dryer didn't work properly. It turned and all of that, but it didn't work. The fridge didn't work properly. There was an issue with it. It just kept freezing all the time. Then we found out the shower didn't pump properly, and it would go hot to cold, hot to cold. We found out that some of the floorboards were rotten once we pulled the carpet up to change the carpet on the property. There was a few things, and it ended up costing us £3,700 in the end. When I say us, me, and it was way over budget from what I expected. So I wanted that property to cash flow in about 3 months, but it's actually ended up cash flowing about 6 months now, maybe 5 months, because we found more little issues coming up all the time. So the good news on that property is that it is in perfect condition now. It's absolutely fantastic. Everything's great, but it is going to take me 6 months to cash flow on that, which I'd say is a disadvantage personally, because it's quite a long time for me to get all my money out, and I have got it on a 3-year contract. So basically, I'm going to make 2.5 years worth of profit on that by the end of it, which is good. But ideally, I didn't want it to take 6 months. So that is a drawback with rent to rent. Sometimes you might find a property that does have problems. But then again, I could have bought that property as an HMO myself and found those problems too. So, there's pros and cons to that as well. The second point we'll talk about is the tenant could damage their room and abscond, leaving you high and dry. So that is also a disadvantage. It's not happened to me, but it could happen. So the way you counteract this is that you use a guarantor. So you always use a guarantor, and that's something that I've always used. I insist on with anybody that moves in. They need to have a UK guarantor, so that if someone did damage the property or they did abscond, I've got the inventory, I've got everything there. I've got a signed contract from the guarantor. I've got their photo ID. I would take action against that guarantor. and I would go to a small claims court if I needed to, because at the end of the day, a contract's a contract and money is money. So that is something, if that did happen, you'd have to deal with that. You'd have to repair it, the room if they damaged it, or if they did abscond, you'd be short of their rent for, maybe you might lose a month's rent or something. So that's a definite disadvantage there. The third one, and I think really is the biggest disadvantage, and I've not had this happen to me, and I don't know anyone that has had this happen. In fact, I do know one person that wrote an article in YPN, I think it was last month, December edition, but that's the only one I've ever heard of, and that's that the landlord could become bankrupt and lose the property. And really, there's no way to stop this. If that does happen, you can do your due diligence, but you can't exactly say to the landlord, look, I want to pay your rent for you at the beginning, the mortgage, sorry, because straight away there's a lack of trust there. You're showing that you don't trust that landlord, and it's going to put you it won't put you in a good position going forward. So that is really, I'd say, your biggest risk. Landlord could go bankrupt, but the way you do that is you do your due diligence up front. You check, if you want to do a credit check on the landlord, then that could be a good idea. You just want to really, when you meet that landlord anyway, if you get any bad vibes going on, or you don't feel a good connection with them, then you could possibly look at not doing the deal, which I actually have had that happen twice, where I met one landlord, I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was a good deal, everything was fine, but I didn't do it because my gut said to me, there's something about this guy that just didn't feel right. And I've had another one, which was a lady, and she was very dominant towards me and told me how it was all going to be. And again, someone said to me, "Oh, just be careful with her because of this, this, and this." So I did my due diligence there. I trusted my gut, and I didn't do the deal. So I've never had an issue. I know that Arsh has never had an issue. None of our students have ever had an issue either. But you do have to be aware that could happen. Now, the way you limit that, the impact of that is, you look at a property, and if you think, for example, it's going to take 3 months to cash flow, let's say you're going to cash flow £700 a month, you would then say, right, if you want to be really risk adverse, the maximum I can spend on that property is 3 times 700, which is £2,100. So that would be your refurbishment cost. So if that landlord did go bankrupt, how long does it take for a bank to repossess a property? It's not a day, a week. It's actually a little bit of time. So the good thing is, if it did happen, fingers crossed it's not going to happen day one when you've just finished a refurbishment anyway. But if it did happen, at least you could claw back some of that money and try and delay the process of the bankruptcy from the landlord. Delay that process for a couple of months, 3 months. At least you'd break even then, and you've got some experience. So really, there's a pro to every con in a way. So I don't know.
I would probably even say in that it's I don't know, and I've never come across this, so I'm speaking just very much off the cuff here. But even if the property did get repossessed, there's still a tenancy agreement in place.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And so someone could take legal advice, and the repossession company would probably still have to honour your agreement or purchase.
That's a good point. Yeah, Arsh, I didn't completely slip my mind. You're spot on there. If you give someone a 6-month AST, assured short hold tenancy agreement, the bank couldn't repossess that property anyway until the end of that period. So you would actually make all your money back plus 3 months worth of profit, 2,000. So there we go. It's resolved.
Okay.
You want to go on to the next slide then, Ash?
Are there any I'm just going to quickly. Are there any questions? We've had a few questions here actually.
Yeah.
A couple of questions that people are asking is who insures a property? What contract would you use between the landlord and yourselves? Do you take room deposits? How do you make sure you find the right tenants, and how do you figure out what the best tenant type is for you?
Yeah, so the last question, that takes a good hour to go through. So won't be able to cover that right now. But in terms of the agreement, we use a management agreement, which has been specifically drafted and created. Arsh can mention that afterwards, but I spent a lot of money having that created, fully legally compliant, is ironclad, it's solid. What was the first question, Arsh?
Okay, so who insures the property?
The landlord insures the property just as they would if they were renting it as normal. You don't need to take any insurance at all, apart from your professional liability cover, which we talk about anyway. We talk about all that when we do our stuff.
Okay, and how do you determine what the right tenant type is for you?
Yeah, like I said, when we do that on the trainings, that takes us an hour to go through, Arsh?
Yeah.
When we talk about, LHA, workers, boutique, professionals, students, we go through all of that. So it takes too long to go through now.
Okay. Okay, just quickly having a quick look. Does the management agreement work in Scotland? A lady's asked.
Good question. I don't know the answer, but it is not an English legal form. This is a private contract, so I would say yes, although with a caveat. I would have to check with the solicitor.
Okay, so a few people are just asking about HMO license. Who's responsible for the HMO license? But I believe you only take two-story properties, so you don't comply with the HMO license legislation, do you?
I've got one coming on June, which is a licensed HMO. It's a bigger property, and that's already got a license. But if I was to do it, no, I wouldn't get involved in that. That's the landlord's business to get involved with the licensing. It's not for me to do. He's got to get a license anyway, regardless. So.
Okay. Okay, fine. So let's just quickly push on to the conclusion then. Do you want to do this part, mate?
Yep, sure. I'll blast through it. So both Ash and I agree. The only what have I put here? The only real way to lose a landlord if they become bankrupt. So against this, there's really no protection. But as we've just covered there, you'd at least get your money back and make a profit. So really, I can't see any other cons. If people want to type anything in that they think might be another one, then we'll go through that. But it's really all pros. Like I said, I've not had any issues. We've not had our students have any issues. So I'm sure something will come up at some point. But right now, we haven't had any.
Okay. Right. So a few people are asking us just about the course that we'll be holding and where will it be based.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just give you a quick rundown of this. We're not going to go too much on this because we were here to give you a lot of content. So we are running a workshop on the next one is actually on the 31st of Jan and the 1st of Feb. I appreciate that some people may not be able to make that. And so we've just penciled in another date in our diaries, and it's going to be the last weekend in March, which is actually the 28th and 29th of March. We haven't got those details actually listed on our website yet, but they will be done by tomorrow morning. And just to give you an indication of what we've done, all the seats were taken on our last webinar. So what we've had to do, we've had to create additional space, and there are two ways that you can learn with Neil and I. You can either come and attend in person and sit with the room, which we still believe is the best way of learning, because you get to interact with the rest of the group. And not only that, you get to interact with us. Alternatively, if you can't make it for whatever reason, distance may be an issue, you can't get a babysitter, etc., etc., we also do something called a live streaming session, which means that we will live stream the whole session so that you can watch it as you're watching it now on screen from the comfort of your own home. You'll get all the documents as if you were in the room, and you'll be listening to us as if you were in the room. So there are two different formats as how you can come on the course, and the next one, like I say, is on the 31st of Jan. Neil, do you want to talk us about what we're going to be talking about on the day? So this is the Saturday.
Thursday. This is the Saturday, and firstly, we're going to talk about how you can dominate and find your gold mine area. So firstly, you're going to find it, and then you're going to dominate that area. And if you've got anyone else doing rent to rent, or at least trying that area, we'll show you how to dominate that area, get them out as well. So we'll make sure you're in charge of that area. I'm going to show you how to get in front of a large amount of landlords. Again, we've got it all systemized. We've got mind maps. We'll teach you marketing and things. So you get in front of a large amount of landlords. How to create the high-end finish that you saw in those pictures for a really low-cost budget. I think that's the one of the biggest problems people come to us with. You know, saying we're spending £1,000 a room or £500 a room. How are you doing it for this cost? So we'll show you all of that. Show you how it's all systemized. How to be legally compliant and avoid the pitfalls that others have been caught out with. Me and Ash get this almost every other day. People saying, I'm in trouble with this, I'm in trouble with that. And we say, well, what, you know, how have you ended up doing this? Who taught you this? And, you know, they're just constantly people getting themselves into trouble with management agreements and things like that. So don't use any that you download on the internet or whatever people are doing at the minute. We've got our own management agreement. We spent over £3,000 creating this with legals. It's been through, I think, 3 definite solicitors. The 4th one's still looking at, you know, a couple of points we've got on it. It's solid. We'll also show you how to calculate the numbers and the profit on each deal, because again, if you haven't got the experience, you need to know how to do this. You need to know how to calculate all the profits, look at the cash flow, the return on investment. You need to know this, otherwise there's no point doing rent to rent. And then I'll show you my...
Good. Sorry, Neil. Sorry to interrupt. Is that if you've got a deal that you think you've almost negotiated and you want to bring it to the workshop, we'll strip it back to its bare basics and see if it's actually going to make the money that you're anticipating on it making. We had one lady come on one of our workshops, and unfortunately, although she was extremely eager to start strategy, the property that she was proposing to take on just wasn't financially viable, and we were worried that if she did take it on, she would be losing money straight away. The landlord had agreed only a 12-month term, and she was having to put in the best part of £5,000 into the property, which we just thought was absurd. And what we have done is we've now tried to steer her in the right direction, and now she's gone off and started pitching to new landlords, hopefully with the right information and knowing what kind of properties to pitch for and how they're going to work for her financially.
Yeah. And then the last point is that I'm going to show you my exact model of how I made the 5K in 5 months so fast. So you'll see that it will be embedded within the course all the way through, and you'll see exactly how I did it and the strategy I took. So next slide, Ash. So that's day 1. Day 2, the 1st of Feb, which is the Sunday, is the one that we've added by popular demand. So as you know, I'm by profession a sales trainer, and I train people all over the world. Right now I'm out in the USA, so I actually train not just salespeople but sales trainers. So hopefully that should give you a little bit of background and my level of expertise on it. So on the next day, we've added in an advanced negotiations course. And this really, I think, is what tips our students over the edge and makes them mind-blowingly successful. So a few of the points then. Buying patterns and sales psychology. This is something that you really need to get your head into. Understand the psychology of why people buy, how they buy, what are the patterns, what are the language patterns, how, you know, all this, go through all that. I'm going to show you the exact process, and it is a scientific formula for taking a landlord from the first letter or phone call right through to finally signing the management agreement. I've got a 12-step formula. I invented this myself. It's hugely successful. I'd say one of the best sales formulas anywhere that you can read up on. And next thing, how to overcome objections, which is a big one. Usually a lot of people, as soon as they get an objection from a landlord, they don't know the answer, loses credibility and lose the deal. We're going to show you all the different objections that might come up so that you know straight away if a landlord says it, you've got an answer there. And the most important thing about this, a lot of people always ask me about, oh, can you write a book on this, and can you do this, and can you give us the points and the 12 points? And it's so difficult to explain this concept, because the only really way I can explain it is, imagine if your child, if you've got a kid, they're never ridden a bike before, and you put them on a bike and said, right, step 1, get your balance, get even. Step 2, hands on handlebars. Step 3, start pedaling. Step 4, ride your bike to the end of the road. What would happen? They'd get to step 1, 2, 3, and step 4, they'd fall over. And it's the same with this. It's experiential. You can't just learn this from reading about it. You've got to experience it yourself. So that's why we do 3 live interactions during the day. The first one, you're just going to freestyle it, and me and whichever sales trainers that I've got with me. So I always bring at least one of my sales trainers that I've trained myself, and they'll be one of the best in the UK. We'll go through and watch you. We won't laugh, don't worry. And then you're going to take your scorecard and you're going to make some points on there to see how you got on. Next, we're going to do a bit more psychology. We're going to teach you a bit more. You'll go and do another interaction and see how you got on. So you'll be taking it in turns with each other doing this. And then by the end of the day, your third interaction, you'll just be blown away. Absolutely blown away by the results you're getting. And you can take this anywhere in life. It doesn't matter what you do, what business you're in, what job you're in. You can use this to negotiate deals all the time or get a pay rise, and it's just incredible. So if you go on to the next slide, Arsh. So are you a strong negotiator? I'd say most people are not. So of the people who attend our rent-to-rent courses, about 25% of attendees already have at least 2 to 3 rent-to-rent properties, minimum. So why do they come on our courses? Because we share with you our secrets to rent-to-rent success, so that you can repeat the results that we've got, and you really can repeat these results. Number 2, because it's the only course delivered by, it's a nice point there, Ash, I've got a new title, a master sales trainer. Well, I'm a sales trainer that teach you how to negotiate with the landlords too. Now we're going to use an image here to explain this. How many of you walk up the stairs, so step 1, and then jump to step 7, and then jump back to step 3 again, and then jump up to step 6? You get the idea here. You would never do that because you'd end up down A&E straight away with broken legs. So why then do most people do this in negotiations in life, or in particular talking with landlords? The reason people do this is they don't understand there's a formula to follow, and you've really got to follow this formula. And when you follow this formula and go from step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know if there's going to be a deal there, because the landlord will say to you, for example, step 3, that part doesn't work for me. And then you can work on that and get agreement before going forward to step 4. But you don't just come in with, well, this is the price I'm going to offer you, which is, one of the last steps, and then jump back to step 2 and talk about deals and move your way through. So that's what we do. We show you a formula for it. Next slide, Ash. So on day 2, you're going to receive a full day of negotiation training to increase your conversion rate from 1 in 5 up to 4 in 5. So as I said, you're going to get 3 live negotiation sessions where you're going to really practice all of this. You'll also get my 12-step sales system. So you're going to learn how to do that for yourself.
Okay.
Next slide.
Right, okay, here we go. So there are, naturally there are other people out there teaching rent to rent, and by all means you're more than welcome to go and research them. But what we are offering today, and only for action takers, it's the start of the year, and one thing that we want to do is offer you guys some immediate value. So normal courses start at anywhere between £500 and £700 just for a 1-day course, but today we're offering you both days for just £595. And if that wasn't good enough, we're going to allow you to bring a business partner or a marital partner for absolutely free. So that means that you're getting 2 people for the price of 1. And if you calculate it between yourselves, it's £297.50 each. Or if you want to calculate, or if you want to convert it by the day, it's £148 each for the day, which is, we think, is the lowest cost training possibly in the UK, but we're giving you the most value. Now, if you do want to book onto that, the best way that we can say is by going onto the website, which is www.arshelahi.com. So ARSHELLAHI.com. ellahi.com. And if you look on the events tab, I'm going to give you a quick demonstration. So go on my website, you'll see my lovely face there. And if we go to the events tab, look for the 31st of Jan and Sunday 1st of Feb special offer. And you'll see in the far right hand corner the weekend calls price there. And all you have to do is add to cart. And it really is as simple as that. Now, one thing that we haven't added in is that we're going to do something extremely special here. So again, that's the website, arshellahi.com/events/R2R. One thing that I've been doing I've been a landlord for the best part of 20 years. And the one thing that I've done, and I've done very successfully, is create a wallet of documents where it doesn't allow any of our tenants to fall into arrears. Naturally, we've got a lot of tenants who are on benefits who are stigmatized to be the worst in the tenant segment market. But I think they're actually the best. And I've created documents which don't allow them to fall into arrears. Now, how many of you guys who are actually on the webinar have professional tenants who owe them rent? Sorry, I'm just having a quick look. Okay, so a few people saying, yeah, we've got professional tenants who owe us rent. Now, with this, I've created something called the Key to Success, which is in the form of a USB. And on there, we've got documents like mind maps, gas safety documents, guarantor documents, water and legally binding tenancy agreement. I'm going to be throwing these in. I normally sell these on my website every day of the week for £197. I'm going to be putting Neil's documents as well as my documents onto this USB, and you can have that for free for those who are looking to take action tonight. A couple of people saying that they can't make the one in January, but can they book on for the one in March? You can use the same link, but as long as in the special comments box you put please enroll me for the March course, because the offer that we're doing for 2 for 1 is specifically just for this evening. If you look on the website as well, you'll also see that it's being held in a lovely hotel just outside Wolverhampton. It's called the Village Urban Resort Hotel. It's a spa hotel, which means that if you do decide to stay the night, you get access to the full spa facilities as well as the gym facilities. So why not make a weekend of it? Again, remember it is £595 for the 2 days. Normally we sell them for £395 a day. And if
you just go back a slide there.
Sure. I know what I missed out.
Yeah.
You want to take that one?
Yeah. So for everybody that books on in the next 24 hours, you're going to get a one-on-one session with me as well. And that can mean whatever you want. I had one person take theirs in business the other day. They wanted a one-to-one session in business and getting more business clients, which is a random one. But you can have your one-on-one session with me in anything you want. And you'll also get into the VIP Facebook group where you're going to get all your questions answered daily. You'll join all the other rent-to-rent people and sharing their success. You know, this is a mastermind. How much do people pay for masterminds now? Thousands and thousands of pounds. And you're getting into this group to get all that.
Okay, fantastic. So that's an added bonus. One person has just put, I think Lisa's just put that, unfortunately, her and her partner can't come together because they've got 3 kids. But they do want to come on the course. We will allow you to come on separate dates. So Lisa wanted to come at the end of Jan, and then if your partner wanted to come in at the one in March, we will do that and we'll be able to honour that. So don't let that be a deterrent. Remember, guys, we are at the start of January. We are at the start of a brand new year. You would have set your goals this year. Some of you would have put the goal in that you want to be financially free by the end of this year. We can make that happen. But the first thing that you need to do, you need to take that step. Only you are in control of what you do from here onwards. We can give you as much knowledge as you need. We've been out there, we've done it. We walk the walk and we talk the talk. I think that's the way around. But yeah,
definitely.
But in the same respect, the rest that it all comes down to you. we can give you the tools and everything that you need. We'll be showing you what to do, how to get in front of landlords, what to say to landlords, how to bring the property home. Once you've got the property, how do you dress the property? How do you market the property? How do you let
Yeah.
the property?
You know, Ash, one other thing I wanted to add, which is on the last slide. In terms of the return on investment that you can get from this, because a lot of people don't sort of take this into account. If you spend 595 on a course and you get your first property at the end of, let's say you know, you need a month to get your head into it all and set yourself up, for example. I know not all of you are going to go out and do it the first week. Let's say it takes you a month to get your head into it, and you get your first property and it's cash flowing, I don't know, let's say minimum £600 a month. You spent £600 on the course. How long does it take you to get your money back? It's 1 month cash flow. I don't know anywhere you can get that sort of return.
Okay, sorry Neil, a couple of guys saying that they couldn't see the link. I've just sent everyone a link in the far right hand column. So the link for the course should be in the box where it's got the comments.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes people, they might say, yeah, I just want to do day one, or some people these days want to do day two. They want to get the negotiation so they can use it with their other strategies. I think lease options are a popular one, and you know, buying properties and things. And yeah, it still works. This works again. You know, you'd have to adapt it a little bit during the day because it is geared towards rent to rent. But yeah, you can use it for that as well. So you can do the days separately. We're doing them for $395 a day. But if you want to do both days, it's only $595. So you know, I don't know how much cheaper we can make this. Really, it's
Okay.
you just look at the hotels, and I think we've pretty much wrapped
Okay,
up, Ash.
right, yeah, sorry, I'm just getting carried away here. Okay, so just to know, just to let you know, we are holding it at the Village Urban Resort Hotel, and for those that know, it is quite a luxurious place. Normally, the rooms there are going for roughly around £105 a night, which includes the gym facilities. But if you book through us guys, and if you we've managed to get a discount on some of the rooms. If you look at the website there, you can also see that you can book your hotel online as well. So it's almost like a one-stop shop there. And for those that are still thinking about it, why don't you look at the testimonials video that we've got on the website? Listen to some of the guys that have been on the course and now taking action. But And finally, someone's just asked about the live streaming. If you want to book onto the live streaming, all you do is go to the events, live streaming R2R, and this is the one where you can listen from the comfort of your own home. Unfortunately, we have got that wrong because it's if you're live streaming for both days, it is 595, as is with the other course. So if you are to book onto that, and you want to purchase it tonight to take advantage of all the documents, go to the special offer page and in the special comments book say that you want to live stream it. So you're more than welcome to. You know, we're very flexible in that respect. Finally, we're one of the very few trainers that will give you direct access to both me and Neil. The education does not stop after you've been to the event. We've got a Facebook close knit community specifically for people who have been on the training.
Yeah. And I know that Arsh lets people call him or message him on Facebook and whenever he wants. If any of you want to, you know, you might have a couple more questions, or maybe you just wanted a quick chat or anything like that, just to find out if this is right for you, just send Arsh a message. He'll give you my personal mobile number, and we can have a conversation. Or if you want to send me a message over Facebook, it's neil.ward3, and I can give you my Skype ID, and we can have a short conversation over Skype. And just, you know, get any more questions you got answered. Let's get you on the training, get you financially free. Because I think if you're still here at the end of this webinar, then that's what you're here for, basically. It's usually, when it comes to this, if this was a free course, you'd all be booked on by now. It's just the money that's there left in the background. And at 595, if you can get a business partner with you, it's less than £300 each. I mean, it's so low, it's unbelievable. And then it's just getting that first deal and cash flowing so fast, it's unbelievable. So that's really all I've got to close with. Arsh, have you got anything else?
No, well, you've got my contact details on screen now, and believe it or not, you get my personal mobile number there, which very few people give out, especially on courses. I'm happy to speak to you at any point during the whole process. So whether it's you're thinking about coming on the course or whether you've been on the course and you want some further information, why not get in contact with me? You won't go through to my PA, you'll be coming directly through to me, as well as you can, as some of you know, that I'm quite active on social media. So you're more than welcome to message me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And then let's see what we can do together. Right. Tony's just asked a question. Does the courses tell you how to find suitable landlords? We run a whole section on how to find landlords to do rent to rent.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
more important, we look at things like supply and demand. So before you even go and tout for landlords in their area, we look for what your gold mine area is. Is there sufficient demand? It's all very well taken on properties, but if you've got no one to fill it, you're going to be in the exact same scenario that that landlord was in, that the property is going to be sitting there vacant. We don't want you to be that person. We don't want you to hit that shortfall or that pitfall. We want you to be the person that takes on the property, creates a win-win scenario, and start generating some positive cash flow from day one.
And to add to that, Arsh, even if you get a property from a landlord who says he hasn't been able to rent the rooms, we'll show you how to rent those rooms really quickly. I won't go into it now, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but we'll show you different little strategies you can use and contact businesses and people that you can use who will rent that room for you in a heartbeat.
Okay, brilliant. I mean, if there are any other questions and you would like to ask them, now is your opportunity because we are at the end of the presentation. Happy to help uh, as and where possible. I think we've got one last question. Hi, Arsh. Is this strategy possible for an expatriate looking to use this strategy in the UK? Neil, do you want to help with that one?
Is it possible to use the strategy in the UK?
Yeah, no. Is this strategy possible for an expatriate looking to use this strategy in the UK?
Yeah, if it's in the UK, there's no better place in the world to do it.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so if there are any other questions, you're more than welcome to help. We have recorded this webinar, but we will send it out to specifically those who have attended today, because what we have done previously is sent it out to everyone who's registered, but we like to think that we reward the people who take the time and effort to come and attend these seminars online. So yes, we will try and get that out to you first thing tomorrow. Okay, I think that's the end of all the questions. Neil, I'd like to thank you very much for your time. Go and enjoy the rest of your day in LA.
Yeah, I'm lying in the back garden now. Sunshine. I've got my freshly squeezed orange juice from the orange tree.
Someone said earlier, mate, that
Not to make you guys jealous.
the parrots in the background.
Yeah, can you hear them?
What
Sorry,
Neil
not to make you
tell you is
jealous.
actually sitting in Dudley Castle.
All right.
No, brilliant. Okay, my friend. Well, have a good day. Enjoy the sunshine, and I'll see you at the end of the month. Everyone else online, I'd like to thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure presenting to you this evening. If there are any questions, you know where I am. You can catch me on Facebook as well as all the other mediums that I've mentioned. And if you have booked onto the course, we'll be seeing you hopefully either at the end of January or at the end of March. And in the meanwhile, if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to get in contact.